All right, we're gonna get going in just a second. Can I get our scoring judges and can I get everybody on the screen? Actually, let's make it easy. Hey everyone. Welcome to the 2023 Trial by Combat Play-In Tournament. This is our third semifinal of the day so far. We had a great two morning rounds, and we're looking forward to two more excellent semifinals starting in just a minute or two. Before we get going, I want to just introduce very briefly our scoring judges. We have three competitors from the UCLA Law's fantastic trial team: Ireland Larson, Christian Cotter, and Catherine Rosenfeld. You may recognize Catherine and Christian as two of the authors of this year's NCT case. And most importantly, you may recognize Catherine as the winner of the 2022 Battle of the Experts competition at Drexel Klein Law, which, as we all know, is the best invitational in the country. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Judge Rosenfeld. Good luck to both of you.
All right, with that, let's get started. I'm calling the case of United States v. Danny Ocean. Are the parties present and ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, the state is present and ready to proceed.
The defense is here and ready to proceed with appearances.
Great, let's start with appearances, starting with the government.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning or good afternoon. I'm not sure where you're calling in from. My name is Michael Chandler, and today I represent the state.
Great. Defense?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Mary Pat Peterson, and today I'm joined by Danny Ocean.
Good morning, Your Honor.
And I will be advocating on behalf of the defense.
Great. Are there any preliminary matters from the government that we need to attend to?
No, Your Honor. Pursuant to stipulation, all the housekeeping matters have been settled, so the state is ready to proceed.
Great. Anything from the defense? All right. Well, let's start with opening statements, starting with the government.
Of course, permission to set up for to produce a statement.
Absolutely.
He planned, he performed, he profited. It's January 2023. And a man sitting on a beach behind a beautiful Italian beachside estate. It's off the Amalfi Coast. It's not cheap, and he owns it. The problem? The money for that estate, it didn't come from working a 9-to-5. It didn't come from a loan. The money for that estate was stolen. It was stolen by the defendant, Danny Ocean. You see, back in July of 2022, this defendant was involved in a casino heist in the New York hotel in Las Vegas. You're going to learn that the defendant, along with 10 other thieves, planned a heist to steal $160 million. You're going to learn that he performed as a police officer, conned the casino staff, and snuck his way in to the vault. And that after that, he made away with $160 million. Members of the jury, you're not just going to learn today that the defendant planned and performed a heist. You're also going to learn that he profited. Because you're going to learn today that after that heist concluded, this defendant started making large cash purchases. Members of the jury, this defendant planned, performed, and profited from a casino heist. That's a felony. And it's why we brought a charge of grand theft and conspiracy against him today. With those two charges, we have to prove that more than $1,000 was stolen from the New York hotel and casino. And that this defendant, Danny Ocean, helped it get stolen. Members of the jury, I want to make one thing clear. We already know something was stolen because the 10 co-conspirators that worked with this defendant, well, they confessed. They confessed to stealing that money, confessed to robbing the New York, confessed to grand theft. So all we have to figure out today is whether or not this defendant helped commit that grand theft. And we're going to prove exactly that beyond a reasonable doubt. Because we're going to show you that he planned, he performed, and that he profited off that crime. So how do we know he planned it? Well, we're going to call Agent Kelly Grimes to the stand. He's an FBI agent with over 20 years of experience. He'll tell you that this defendant met with the co-conspirators of this crime in the weeks leading up to this heist. He'll tell you that this defendant was the link between all 10 of those co-conspirators. So if he's the link, how do we know he performed it? Well, Mr. Grimes is going to take you into the vault where the crime occurred. He's going to show you the video footage of the crime as it was being committed. And he's going to point out one person that wasn't accounted for, and he'll tell you that after his 5-month investigation, he learned that there was only one person that could be that 11th member. This defendant, Danny Ocean. And members of the jury, after you hear how he planned it, after you hear how he performed it, you're going to learn he profited. Because you're going to learn today that this defendant started making large cash purchases. You're going to learn he bought a nice home in Miami, a nice home off the coast of Italy. You're going to learn he didn't get any loans for this, didn't get any mortgages, didn't get any money from a friend. You're going to learn that every one of those purchases were made with cold, hard cash. Members of the jury, in a moment, Ms. Peterson is going to get up here. And I don't know quite what she'll say. I don't know what excuses she'll make. But nothing she says will change the fact that Mr. Ocean planned, performed, and profited off this crime. And it's because she won't be able to change that at the end of today's trial, I'm going to stand before you and ask you to find Mr. Ocean guilty of grand theft and conspiracy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Defense, would you like to make an opening statement or not?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
2 weeks, 11 rooms, 20,000 minutes, and 0 evidence. Mr. Chandler just stood before you and told you a pretty tall tale about my client, Mr. Ocean. One in which Mr. Ocean is the villain straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. Apparently, he managed, from prison, under constant surveillance, to plan a vault heist on a high-security casino for $160 million in cash. You see, in the government story today, Mr. Ocean gets released from prison and stays at the hotel, the scene of the crime, for 2 weeks. That's over 20,000 minutes. And somehow, he doesn't leave behind a single strand of hair, a single skin cell, doesn't appear on a second of surveillance footage in the casino. Now, I'll give it to Mr. Chandler. Mr. Ocean, he does have a history of theft. But the reality of the story isn't quite as glamorous as the government would have you believe. Mr. Ocean's no magician, no illusionist. In reality, he's a man in love. He neglected his marriage and came to Vegas to meet up with his wife and make amends. You'll hear testimony from my client today that's going to prove that that is the reason that Mr. Ocean was at the New York Hotel and Casino. That he was there to win back the love of his life, Tess Ocean. Of course, that's not what the government wants you to hear. They're here to convince you that Mr. Ocean committed grand theft and conspiracy, two separate charges. And with each charge the government levies, they take on a burden to prove each element of the two charges. They have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest standard in our legal system. It's not beyond a possibility or even a probability. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. Now let's talk about exactly what elements the government has to prove to you today, starting with the grand theft charge. First, the government must prove that the defendant took possession of property. Second, that the property was valued at more than $1,000. Third, that the property was owned by somebody else. Fourth, that Mr. Ocean took it without the owner's consent. Fifth, that he took it with the intent to permanently deprive the owner of the property. And sixth, that Mr. Ocean moved the property, even a small distance, and kept it for a period of time. Now that's not the only thing the government has to prove. Moving to the conspiracy charge, they have to prove two things. First, that Mr. Ocean agreed with at least one other person to commit grand theft. And second, that at least one of those folks did something to commit grand theft. Now, the government needs to prove all 8 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, right now, members of the jury, at this moment, Mr. Ocean is presumed innocent. Now, that's a privilege that all of us here today, all of us have. We're innocent until proven guilty. Mr. Ocean has rights that protect his interests, rights that say he can remain silent, that he can plead the fifth. He's never had any duty to cooperate with the police. Mr. Ocean chose to, time and time again. From the very beginning, he agreed to an interview, and today he'll take the stand. Mr. Ocean doesn't have a problem answering the government's questions because he's got nothing to hide. Now, as you listen to the evidence today, I want you to question how on earth Mr. Ocean was supposed to be planning this heist from prison. How could that have possibly happened? Obviously, members of the jury, conspiracy requires communication. Now, I want you to ask yourself, is the government going to show you texts? Are they going to show you phone calls? Maybe something like old school paper and pen, a letter? Believe it or not, you're not going to see any kind of record of communication between Mr. Ocean and his alleged conspirators. Even if they tried to visit him in person, you're not going to see a prison visitor log to prove that. So right now, I'm going to ask you to ask why not. Now, in addition to the lack of evidence of conspiracy, consider a lack of physical evidence. I mean, maybe you walked into this trial expecting to find Mr. Ocean's DNA evidence in one of the 11 hotel rooms that the government claims the defendants were conspiring together in. I mean, maybe there would have been fingerprints found in the rooms, or somewhere around the casino, or in the vault where the theft took place. Hair fibers, any DNA. No doubts. The government won't be able to show you any of that. I'm so confident in this that right now, I'm going to issue a challenge to the government to, over the course of the trial, bring any piece of DNA or even digital forensic evidence that has my client's digital or literal footprint on it. I'm no gambling woman, members of the jury, but I'd take that bet. Because they won't be able to do it. 2 weeks. 7 of America's top investigators, 11 rooms, over 20,000 minutes of my client's time to sift through. They investigated. And what do they have to show for it? Nothing. And that's why, at the end of today's trial, well, I'm going to come before you again and ask that you find Mr. Ocean not guilty. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Peterson. Government, are you ready to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Agent Kelly Grimes to the stand.
All right. Agent Grimes, you have been sworn. All right. Proceed whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Of course. Good afternoon. My name's Kelly Grimes.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a special agent with the FBI and the Las Vegas office over in the Major Robberies Unit. I've been doing my job for over 20 years now.
How'd you get into that field of work?
When I was a kid, I loved to imagine myself as being part of my favorite Tom Cruise action movie, Mission Impossible. But I waited and waited, and my top secret self-destructing letter never came. So I did the next best thing. I joined the FBI. I'm happy to let you know that I get to do all of my own stunts. I get to make my own coffee, get my own papers, and every once in a while investigate a major case.
Agent, do you know why you're in court today?
I do. On July 4th, 2022, $160 million were stolen from the New York Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Me and a team of 6 other agents were put on the case and asked to investigate what happened and who is responsible.
Agent, I want to walk through your investigation for the members of the jury. When were you assigned that case?
I was assigned on the night of July 4th, a little bit after 10 p.m.
What happened when you got on the scene?
First thing I did was talk to the hotel's owner, Will Lorenzen, and I learned that around 10 p.m., a group of thieves had shut off the power to the hotel and tricked the hotel's owner into letting a team of fake SWAT team members go into the vault and walk out with $160 million. Forensics got on the scene not long after that. And then around 3:30, we actually got a major lead to one of the criminals connected to the case.
Who did that lead point to?
That would be Mr. Clark Doig. We found him with a bag containing $14 million inside. It made sense to ask him a couple questions.
What did you learn from his questioning?
I learned that there were 10 other co-conspirators involved in this case, 11 in all.
Sir, were there any convictions in connection to this case?
Yes, there have been. In September, 10 of those conspirators actually confessed and were convicted of grand theft.
You said 10 confessed and that there were 11. Who was the 11th person that you investigated?
That would be Danny Ocean.
Your Honor, at this time, we'd ask that Mr. Ocean turn on his camera for identification purposes.
All right, Mr. Ocean.
Agent, do you see the person you investigated on the screen?
Yes, that's Mr. Ocean in the blue shirt.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that the witness has identified Danny Ocean.
The record will so reflect.
Mr. Ocean, you can turn off your screen. Agent, how did you get from believing there was 10 people involved in this crime to determining that there was an 11th?
Well, in our investigation, we were able to compare what the conspirator said to video footage that we have of what actually happened. I have a little visual aid to help break it down for you.
Your Honor, permission for the witness to make use of a visual aid. It's been shown to the defense before trial.
You may.
What did you learn from this co-conspirator's words?
Well, from a co-conspirator named Peter Jones, we found that there were actually two teams as part of this group of thieves. There was the fake SWAT team that actually went into the vault and took the money. And then there was a second group that was responsible for managing the hotel and its staff.
Objection, Your Honor, to hearsay.
Your Honor, may I?
You may.
Your Honor, all this information is actually contained in a court hearing whose transcript was pre-admitted before we came into court today. Both sides have already agreed that all the information he stated was said in court and is pre-admitted for the jury. This is an untimely objection that's been satisfied before we walked into court today.
All right.
Response, Your Honor?
You may respond.
That's actually not true, Your Honor. It's the defense's contention that this information actually comes from Mr. Doit, which is an interview that wasn't in court.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
Sure.
Your Honor, the witness just said that he got this information from Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is the individual that spoke in that court hearing that both sides have already agreed to.
Response, Your Honor?
You may respond.
If I may make an offer of proof, the testimony elicited by Mr. Jones in court named 10 suspects, and I do believe that the special agent, Mr. Grimes, just mentioned that he got the testimony that there were 11 co-conspirators. That testimony came from Mr. Doit, which was not made in court.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
You may.
Your Honor, that's not what the witness said. The witness has simply said that he learned from Mr. Jones that there were two teams, and he's going through the process of explaining how he knows there were 11. He's not saying that's what Mr. Jones told him. And Ms. Peterson can take this up on cross-examination if she thinks there's any unclarity. But right now, all the witness has said is that Mr. Jones notified that there were two teams. In fact, I expect the witness to say, not to say that Mr. Jones said there were 11, but that there was 10, and compare that with video footage we have to learn that that was inaccurate.
Okay. We don't have a court reporter, but I think I remember them saying that there were two teams. So I'm going to overrule this objection, and you're free to take it up on cross.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Agent Grimes, what did you learn from Peter Jones?
Well, from Peter Jones, we found that there were two teams, if you would, the fake SWAT team and a second group responsible for managing the hotel.
How many people did Peter Jones say were on each team?
Oh, Peter Jones pointed to 5 and 5. On the SWAT team, there was Kelly, Stevens, Gogillian, Tinselli, and Cotter. And on the SWAT team, or non-SWAT team, there are another 5, including Mr. Jones.
Sir, 5 and 5, that makes 10. You said there was an 11th. How did you determine that there was an 11th?
It turns out that what Mr. Jones said doesn't match up with the video that we have.
Sir, do you have that joint exhibit book in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Do you have exhibit 5?
Yes, I'm there.
Do you know what exhibit 5 is?
I do. This is a couple of stills from the video footage in the vault on the night of July 4th.
Does it look like a fair and accurate copy?
As far as I can tell.
Your Honor, we'd like to move exhibit 5 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. To lack a foundation, may I be heard?
You may.
Your Honor, these two images here are what appears to be stills of an entire video. just 2 frames of what I'm sure are many, many frames. We don't know how long the video is. We don't know when it was taken. And we have no evidence to show that this is actually the video in the hotel. And Your Honor, if I may make an offer of proof.
Sure.
There is reason to believe that some of the video footage taken by security cameras in the hotel was played over by thieves, that it was tampered with. How do we know these images weren't part of that? There has been no foundation laid to the authenticity of these images being actual frames from the videos, or that they're representative of the video in its entirety.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
You may.
Your Honor, Agent Grimes just said that these were the same stills of the footage of that night. Ms. Patterson's argument goes to weight and not admissibility. These are all issues she can bring up on cross-examination, but as it stands, the witness testified that this is video footage from that night of the crime that he saw, that he's familiar with, and looks accurate. There's no lack of foundation here. All the foundation has been laid.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
Respectfully, there is no metadata that comes with these frames that were taken from the supposed video. We don't have timestamps. We don't have a location. We don't even have a title on it saying that it came from one of the security cameras, much less which security camera in the hotel it came from. Furthermore, we don't know if it's been tampered with. We don't know what the results were when the FBI sent this to their forensics lab. We don't have any of that. And therefore, the foundation for the authenticity of this document, well, it can't be laid.
Okay. I'm going to overrule the objection and let Exhibit 5 in, because I think that the authenticity standard is pretty low and you're free to raise all that on cross-examination.
Yes,
Exhibit in, and feel free to proceed.
Agent Grimes, what did you learn from this video footage?
Well, excuse me. From this video footage, we can actually count how many members of the SWAT team there were. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. That means Mr. Jones left out an 11th man.
Agent, during your investigation, did you ever have any evidence that pointed to who that 11th man might be?
I did. The evidence points to Mr. Danny Ocean.
Sir, what evidence did you have that pointed to Danny Ocean?
Oh, I found that Mr. Ocean was actually a link between all 10 of the conspirators, that he met with at least some of them in the week leading up to the crime, and that he came into a large amount of cash after July 4th.
Sir, let's walk through each of those pieces of evidence one by one.
Objection, Your Honor. My apologies. I couldn't get my mute off.
No problem. What is your objection?
My objection is to knowledge, lies, and hearsay under Rule 602.
Okay. Will you elaborate on that?
Yes, Your Honor. Specifically to the portion of the testimony that the special agent laid, where they stated that, or where he stated that Mr. Ocean came into a lot of cash recently. I have it on a good faith basis that the only way he could have learned this was through inadmissible hearsay.
Okay.
Your Honor, may I be heard on those grounds?
You may.
Your Honor, this witness is basing that testimony off an interview he had with Danny Ocean himself. That makes all the information that he's getting for that information based on admission of a party opponent, which is an exception to the hearsay rule. This is not hearsay. It's based on the words of Danny Ocean.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Actually, in that interview, I believe the statements made by Mr. Ocean referred to the fact that he actually just purchased 2 homes. Not that he recently came into money. The only way that this special agent could have learned that is through bank accounts, seeing wire transfers, maybe offshore accounts, something to that effect. But regardless, it would be an admissible hearsay.
Your Honor, may I be heard on those grounds?
You may.
He was informed by Danny Ocean himself that Mr. Ocean made large cash purchases after the heist. Again, Ms. Peterson's arguments go to weight and not admissibility. She can cross on this. But the information he's using, it comes from Mr. Ocean's own words, and that's not hearsay.
Response, Your
Okay.
Honor?
No need. My clerk has just joined us, so disregard her. But I think that there isn't enough foundation on the record for Mr. Ocean coming into a lot of money. You're free to get into the cash purchases he made. But on that part of the testimony, I'm going to sustain the objection and strike the testimony.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir, did you find any evidence that Mr. Ocean used any cash after the heist?
I did. As part of my investigation, I found that he made significant cash purchases after July 4th.
Well, sir, I want to walk through those pieces of evidence one by one. You said that there was evidence linking Danny Ocean to the 10 co-conspirators. What was that evidence?
Well, I actually had the chance to speak to Mr. Ocean, and during the conversation, he told me that he was friends with each and every one of those 10 conspirators. That makes him a common tie between every single one of the 10.
So if he was a common tie between all 10, did you find any evidence that he met with them?
I did. In that same conversation, he told me that he met with at least some of them in the week leading up to the heist at the same hotel, and they were on the same floor.
Sir, you mentioned earlier that he made cash purchases. What were those purchases?
After July 4th, Mr. Ocean bought 2 nice homes. He bought an estate in Miami and a villa off the coast of Italy.
Sir, after this defendant was friends with the 10 criminals, met with them leading up to the heist, and made cash purchases, did you make any arrests?
I did. I arrested Mr. Ocean.
Thank you, sir. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Cross-examination,
Yes, Your Honor.
you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Special Agent Grimes. My name is Mary Pat Peterson, and I'm going to be asking you a few questions today on behalf of Mr. Ocean, all right?
Of course.
Now, I want to start off with the very basics. You've been a special agent for 22 years, right?
That's right.
You'd consider yourself a competent special agent.
I would like to think so. I mean, I get to do what I love.
You had to undergo a lot of training to get where you are today.
That's right. They put us all through the academy.
In the academy, you learned the protocol. Was that where you learned the protocol of omitting certain portions of your report?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I asked if it was in the academy where you learned to omit certain portions of the reports you create.
Objection, Your Honor, to argumentative.
Sustained.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Special Agent Grimes, I want to be clear. For this case, you were investigating a $160 million heist, right?
That's right. That's how much was stolen from the New York hotel.
Involving what you believe to be 11 of the world's most accomplished thieves.
That's right. These are guys that have popped up in the major robberies unit before.
And for your report in this case, well, you came up with 2 pages?
That's right. It was a summary report of all the most important facts I found on Mr. Ocean specifically. It would have been a little bit much to detail my entire investigation.
So you came up with 2 pages.
2 pages of the most important facts. My investigation could go much, much longer, but I didn't want to bore you with the nitty-gritty details.
All right, all right. Now, to be clear, you didn't investigate this case alone.
No, I actually got to lead a team of 6 agents in the Las Vegas office.
So, including yourself, that's 7 agents in total.
That's right.
Plus, you had an FBI forensic lab.
Right. We got the forensics lab to do a sweep of the area when we got on the scene.
And after all of this, with a team of the nation's best agents at your command, you only brought a 2-page report to trial?
Well, that's right. Like I mentioned, I only wanted to include the most important facts in this report. I can go on about my investigation if you'd like, though.
All right, yeah, actually, let's do that. I want to talk about one of the pieces of evidence that you reviewed. You remember looking at the hotel logs, right?
I do, yes.
You would recognize a copy of those hotel logs if I were to show them to you today?
Yes, I would.
If we could get Mr. Fine to share those hotel logs on the screen constructively outside the view of the members of the jury. Now, Special Agent Grimes, these are the hotel logs you reviewed, right?
Yes, they would seem to be.
They're a fair and accurate copy.
As far as I can tell.
The defense moves Exhibit 3 into evidence.
Any objection?
Pursuant to stipulation, no objection, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 3 is in.
All right, now Special Agent Grimes, let's dive into this hotel log a little bit. Now, to be clear, this is the hotel log for the 38th floor, right?
That's right. You can see all 10 of the co-conspirators who've been convicted and Mr. Ocean right in the middle.
Actually, let's make it easier for the members of the jury. I'm going to highlight the names of the co-conspirators in red. Does that look right to you?
That seems right to me. Rooms 301 through 305, and then 37 through 311.
Now, my client, Mr. Ocean, is also on that list, right?
Smack dab in the middle.
And I'm going to make that easier to see for the members of the jury. I'm going to highlight that in green. That looks right to you?
That looks like to me.
Now, according to this log, Mr. Ocean was at the hotel for 2 weeks, right?
That's what this log says.
And the people who pled guilty to this crime, well, they checked in a week after Mr. Ocean.
That's right. They arrive a week later and they all leave on the 5th.
They all pay with the same credit card, right?
The 10 others do.
But Mr. Ocean doesn't.
That would seem to be.
Now, the people who committed this crime, they booked their stay May 10th, right?
That's right.
The same day as Mr. Ocean?
Mr. Ocean, I believe, booked it in advance. I think that the co-conspirators were able to book it a little bit later.
That's right. Mr. Ocean booked his room 2 months before the group of people that actually committed this crime. Isn't that right?
Well, Mr. Ocean booked his in March and the co-conspirators followed in May.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fine. You can take that down now. And we're going to constructively publish that to the jury members, or Your Honor. Now, Special Agent Grimes, I want to get a little bit more into the forensic evidence that you reviewed. Now, Mr. Ocean stayed at that hotel for 2 weeks, right?
That's what the bill says, right?
And of course, when you found out that your suspects were checked into the New York hotel in Las Vegas, you and your agents did a sweep of all the rooms.
Right. We looked at all the rooms for all of their fingerprints, any evidence.
6 of Quantico's best agents looking for strands of hair, skin cells, lifting fingernails, right?
That would be what the forensics team did. My agents were out doing their own thing also.
Right, but you had somebody go through to look for evidence, didn't you?
Of course.
But Agent Grimes, and I want the jury to hear this from you, you didn't find any of my client's fingerprints in any of the 11 rooms, did you?
That's right. I mean, not one of the 11 rooms had any of the 11 people we're suspecting with any DNA evidence. It was scrubbed.
You didn't find any strands of hair either, did you?
That's right.
No fingernail pieces or skin cells?
That's right. All 10 people who confessed to the crime were there for the whole week, and there was nothing in any of the 11 rooms.
You have no DNA evidence at all to show us today.
Right. Those rooms are scrubbed.
In fact, you can't say with DNA evidence that my client visited his co-conspirators' hotel rooms, can you?
Oh, no. I mean, Mr. Ocean told me that he visited the other 10.
And you can't find DNA evidence to say that they visited his hotel room.
That's right. That's why we rely on the FBI and other methods, such as the interview I got to have with Mr. Ocean.
To clarify, that's a yes to my question.
That's right.
All right. Now, let's talk about the security camera footage you reviewed, all right?
Of course.
Now, at Quantico, they teach you how to review security camera footage, don't they?
They teach us how to review all kinds of things. That's one of them.
So surely you reviewed the security footage from the casino and hotel.
That's right.
But you didn't bring any of that footage with you in court today.
No, that's not true.
You brought 2 still frames.
Oh, right. I highlighted 2 still frames so we could count each of the 6 members of the SWAT team.
To clarify, you looked through 2 weeks worth of videos. You didn't even bring 1 video clip to trial today.
Well, that's right. I got to bring 2 frames that I think highlighted the evidence best for you and for everybody else.
So you picked the 2 frames that you thought summed up the whole 2 weeks.
That's right.
All right, now I want to move a little on and talk about some other communications that you were monitoring. Now, to try to connect Mr. Ocean with this group of thieves, surely you looked at their communications, right?
It was one of the things in my review.
So you looked for text messages,
Among other things, yes.
but you found nothing.
That's right.
You looked for phone calls,
It was part of my review. That's correct.
you found nothing.
Well, right. Mr. Ocean says that they were all staying at the same hotel.
Well, you actually don't have any security footage to show them meeting at that hotel, do you?
No, I'm going off of Mr. Ocean's word.
Well, Mr. Ocean actually is never caught on camera at all with any of these co-conspirators.
There's no surveillance footage. That's right.
Meaning that while you're on that stand today, you can't tell us or relay to us a single conversation had between Mr. Ocean and this group of thieves.
I can't tell you the details of those conversations. No, Mr. Ocean told me that they met multiple times.
You can't tell us the details. You can't even tell us a sentence said between either of them.
I can tell you a sentence said by some of those thieves.
You can't tell us a sentence said from the thieves to Danny Ocean.
Oh, you're right. I'm not aware of the details of the conversations. I do know that they met.
Now, I just want to make sure I have this crystal clear for the members of the jury. You had a team of 7 highly trained professional investigators working at the forefront of our nation's intelligence, and you don't have a single piece of DNA evidence to show for it, do you?
Objection asked and answered. We've been over this already.
I think it's slightly different, so I'll overrule.
Yes, Your Honor.
Special Agent Grimes, you came to trial today and you didn't bring a single piece of DNA evidence with you, did you?
You're right. The FBI sometimes is not available. We factor it as part of our method.
That's a yes to my question, isn't it?
That's right.
With that, Your Honor, no further questions on behalf of Mr. Ocean.
All right. Do you have a redirect prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor. We have a redirect.
All right. Proceed when you're ready.
Agent Grimes, you were asked a lot a moment ago about communications between the defendant and those 10 co-conspirators. Did you have evidence that there was communications between the defendant and those 10 co-conspirators?
I did actually. I was told by one of those co-conspirators that Mr. Ocean was the mastermind behind it all.
Thank you, sir. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Any recross?
No recross, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grimes. You may be excused. Do you have another witness, government?
No, Your Honor. The state rests its case in chief.
All right. Defense, would you like to put on a case?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Feel free to call your first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the defense calls Mr. Danny Ocean.
All right, Mr. Ocean, you've been sworn. Feel free to proceed with questioning.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Ocean. My name is Mary Pat Peterson, and I'm going to be asking you a few questions. And to start off, do you know what the government accuses you of today?
Yes, they think I was a part of that robbery on July 4th.
Well, let me just ask you this right away. Did you steal cash from the New York hotel in Las Vegas on July 4th, 2022?
No,
Did you plan to?
no.
All right, well, before we get into July 4th, let's talk a bit about your background. Are you a thief?
A thief is a little demeaning, don't you think? I used to like to think of myself as the thief. But yes, in the past, I took things that maybe I didn't own, but only things that were worth a lot of money, mind you.
Have you ever been convicted for stealing something?
Yes, I have. 3 times. I'm not proud of it, to be honest. The getting caught part. I mean, I pled guilty each and every time, except for this one, because I didn't do it.
Well, could you walk us through those convictions?
Sure, let's see. About 2 decades ago, I was caught stealing a Monet. Fair play to the police. Obviously, I pled guilty. Then I stole the Batmobile. Now, if it really could fly, I wouldn't have had a problem, but that wasn't the case. I pled guilty again. But the 3rd time, well, I lost it all.
What do you mean you lost it all?
My wife is an amazing woman. Tess is the kind of woman that you'd steal for, but she didn't like my business. So when I got caught stealing a mask, she left me. Filed for divorce. That was back in July of 21.
Did you continue to steal after your wife left?
I used to think that my wife was the kind of woman I'd steal for. But after Tess left, I learned that she was the kind of woman I would stop stealing for. Since that dawned on me, I've been working to turn my life around, quit the whole world's most handsome burglar thing, cold turkey, hard stop.
Mr. Ocean, I'd like to change gears a bit and talk about July 4th at that casino. Were you in the New York casino that night?
Yes, I was.
Why were you there?
Well, I decided that, okay, if I'm going to prove to my wife I'm a changed man, I should probably start by talking with her. So that's why I was there. To meet my wife, to meet Tess, and to win her back.
So, did you think your wife was in Vegas?
I did, of course.
Why did you think that?
Well, I believe that she had started seeing someone else, Will Lorenzen, a man who owned a Vegas casino.
Well, how did that make you feel?
When you love someone, I mean really love them, not the stuff you see in movies, it starts to feel like the world can't exist without them, that you can't exist without them. So seeing a person like that, a woman like that with another man, it ripped me apart. It really did.
So what did you do, if anything?
As soon as I got out of prison, I booked a hotel room at that casino, the one Lorenzen owned, the New York. It was going to be my final heist. I was going to steal back the love of my life.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Ocean. As of right now, Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness.
All right, cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, one moment to set up.
Absolutely.
May I proceed?
You may.
Sir, you said a lot of things on direct examination, and I want to go through.
Of course.
Sir, you said that your wife was the kind of woman you'd steal for? You remember that?
I do, yeah.
Well, sir, let's talk about whether or not you stole for her in today's case. Because, sir, we can agree that, like you said earlier, you didn't like the owner of the New York hotel, right?
Absolutely.
You didn't like him because he was with the love of your life. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that hurts to see.
And sir, we can agree that you think whoever stole from that man you don't like, well, they're okay, aren't they?
Power to the people, I say.
Power to the people, sir. You said earlier that you considered yourself the thief. You remember that?
Yeah. Back in my days, that was how I thought of myself.
You said you only stole things that are valuable. Remember that?
Of course, small change like original Batmobiles, crown jewels, that kind of stuff.
Crown jewels, sir, $160 million. That's pretty valuable, isn't it?
That's a pretty penny, sir.
So, sir, if you were the thief, let's talk about whether or not you had the ability to steal in this case. Because,
Sure.
sir, you've been in court all day, right?
I have.
Remember when Miss Peterson said that you couldn't plan a casino heist from prison, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
But, sir, isn't it true that some of the people that were in that criminal conspiracy, well, you met them in prison, isn't that right?
Yeah, I knew a few of them.
Counsel is testifying. Now be heard.
Sure.
Your Honor, specifically the phrase, some of the people that were in your criminal conspiracy.
I'm going to overrule. He's been in court.
Yes, Your Honor.
So some of the people that were in that criminal conspiracy, well, you met them in prison, isn't that right?
Yeah, I met a few of them there. Gogillion, second day in, knew him there.
And those people you didn't meet in prison, you met them through crime, didn't you?
Crimes that I've been through the process for and that I did my time for. Yeah.
Sir, all 10 of the criminals that were involved in that crime, they're your friends. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I guess you could call them my friends. I knew them.
Well, sir, you would call them your friends. Isn't that true?
Of course, yeah.
And those 10 criminal friends, they stayed at the same hotel as you that weekend. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Kelly said that they were planning a job, but I was past that. I wanted nothing to do with it.
Those 10 criminal friends that were in your hotel planning a job, they were on your same floor, weren't they?
Yes, that seems right.
Those 10 criminal friends that were on your same floor, they had the rooms right next to yours. Isn't that right?
Yeah, funny how that works, huh?
Funny how that works, sir. You met with them leading up to the heist. Isn't that true?
Yeah, we went for some drinks and some food at that Hell's Kitchen place. Terribly overrated.
Sir, you didn't meet there with them just once, right?
A few times for some casual drinks, some reminiscing of the old days.
That's right. You met with them a few times leading up to the heist. Isn't that right?
Of course, Vegas, can't miss the drinks there.
So we talked about how well you know those 10 criminals. I want to talk about what happened after that heist occurred.
Sure.
Because we can agree that after that heist occurred, you made some pretty big cash purchases. Isn't that right?
Oh yeah, got a place at Amalfi and also a little estate in Miami.
That's right, sir. You got an estate off the coast of Italy. Isn't that right?
That's right, yes.
And that estate off the coast of Italy, you didn't get a mortgage on it, right?
Nope, paid with cash.
That's right, sir. You paid in cash. Isn't that right?
That's right. I got the good deal of money from my time in the past. And also, I sold my movie rights to Warner Brothers. Can't blame me for that.
So is your testimony that you sold your movie rights to Warner Brothers?
Of course, I'm good at what I do.
Sir, you remember making an interview as part of today's case, isn't that right?
Well, I do, yeah.
You recognize that interview if I showed it to you today in court?
I think so, yeah.
Your Honor, permission to take a moment for us to get that report on the screen, technical difficulties.
Granted.
Sir, this is that report, isn't that right?
Yep, the one and the same.
If you could scroll to the bottom. Looks like a fair and accurate copy, sir.
Yeah, that looks like all of it.
Sir, on line 16 on this page here, Mr. A. Grimes asks you if there's anything else that's relevant to this case. You remember that, right?
And that's what it says, yes.
You said no. You remember that?
Of course.
Sir, nowhere did you say that you sold the rights to a Warner Brothers movie.
Well, he asked me where I got the money. I said I was good at what I did. He didn't ask further, so I didn't say further.
Sir, that wasn't my question. My question is whether or not you said something in court that you never said in your interview, and the answer is yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, sir. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, redirect.
No redirect, Your Honor. I ask that Mr. Ocean be excused.
All right, Mr. Ocean, you may be excused. Any further witnesses or evidence from the defense?
No, Your Honor. The defense rests its case in chief, and we're ready to go ahead and proceed to closing arguments.
All right, government, are you ready to proceed for closing? I can also give you like a 2-minute break to collect your thoughts if you'd like.
I'm fine with the 2-minute break if that's okay with everybody else.
All right.
That's fine with the defense, Your Honor.
Okay, let's get back here 2 minutes before the hour then.
Amazing.
Great. All right. Are you ready to proceed with closing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
The defense is here and ready to proceed as well, Your Honor.
All right. Well then, government, you're free to make your closing argument.
Yes, Your Honor. He planned, he performed, he profited. Members of the jury, every day, people get up, go to work, and they work their 9 to 5. They put time in to get money to support their family, themselves, their loved ones. But this defendant, he decided to cheat that system. Now, he decided to lie, cheat, connive, con to get money from someone else. That's a felony. When you steal more than $1,000 and conspire with others to do it, that's called grand theft and conspiracy. And it's what we've proven today, because we showed how he planned, performed, and profited. Members of the jury, we learned today that this defendant was in the same hotel room on the same floor with all the members of the co-conspirators. But the defense wants you to believe that's just a coincidence. The defense wants you to believe that 10 individuals sat right next to him for a week, met with him while they were planning a heist, and he had no idea what was going on. Members of the jury, not only is that not reasonable, it's not even what the defendant is telling. I was listening really intently to the words that Mr. Ocean was saying on direct examination, but members of the jury, I couldn't get every incriminating thing he said written down. What I did get was that he was willing to steal for his wife. But then of course he was, because the love of his life was with the owner of the hotel that was robbed. He told you that he was the thief, that he only steals valuable things. Members of the jury, he thinks this is a joke. He thinks he can get on that stand, lie to you, ignore what he said in his interview with the FBI. He thinks he can get in front of you, say, I used to be a thief. Say, yes, I knew them. Yes, I met with them. Yes, I got cash afterwards. Lie to you on the stand and then get away with this. The problem for this defendant is that we know that he planned, performed, and profited from this crime. We know from Asian crimes and the defendant that he met with those people leading up to the crime. We know from the video footage and from the other co-conspirators that Mr. Ocean was the mastermind. We know from Mr. Ocean himself that he was the thief. And we know that he profited. And yes, he tried to lie to you and say that he didn't get it from the heist. But members of the jury, use your reason. We know that's not true. We know that when you look at all the evidence, look at him meeting with the people in the heist, look at the video footage and how that matches up with what some of the co-conspirators accused him of being. When you look at the money he came into after, it points to one answer and one answer only. It points to a verdict of guilt. When you go into deliberate, ask yourselves, is it reasonable to think that he sat amongst those people, met with those people, and had no idea? Is it reasonable to believe Mr. Ocean after he lied to you? Is it reasonable that the money for those two homes didn't come from this heist? We're confident that if you use your reason, you'll realize that there's only one answer consistent with the facts: a verdict of guilt. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Ms. Peterson, do you have a closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Get started whenever you're ready.
2 weeks. 11 rooms, 20,000 minutes, zero evidence. Members of the jury, in any ordinary trial, this is the part where I stand before you and I talk about how flimsy the government's case is. Normally, I talk about how shaky the evidence is, or how many holes there are in the investigation, or how unreliable the forensics are, but I can't do that today. Because in this case, members of the jury, there was no evidence to examine. There was no investigation to assess, absolutely zero forensics to analyze. Despite the fact that they had 2 weeks of Mr. Ocean's time, 11 hotel rooms to search, and 20,000 minutes to try and find a moment, a single moment, where Mr. Ocean was in any way linked to the crime. And yet they came up with zero evidence. Think about that. Because the government brought a charge of grand theft and conspiracy to court today. They're making serious accusations, and they've saddled themselves with a hefty burden. In fact, they've saddled themselves with the highest burden in our legal system. Now, I'm going to address each charge in turn, starting with the grand theft charge. Now, grand theft, element 1. The government had to prove that Mr. Ocean actually stole something. Well, let's think about what evidence he had. There were no fingerprints in, on, or even near the vault. No fingerprints near the phone used in the heist. No fingerprints near the bag of money that was recovered, or in any of the thieves' hotel rooms. Now, the government also had to prove that it was valued at more than $1,000, that it was owned by somebody else, and that Mr. Ocean took that item without the owner's consent, with the intent to permanently deprive the owner of it, and that he moved it, however far. Now, members of the jury, to prove that, they have nothing. No DNA, no hair, no fingernails, no skin, nothing. The government stopped short at the very first prong. Now, the government would have you believe that Mr. Ocean is a criminal mastermind, that he checked on into that hotel and wrote down his real name, gave them his real license, and used his real credit cards. A criminal mastermind, but he didn't think to even use an alias. That's because the unvarnished truth is, members of the jury, that despite the bells and whistles and the great showmanship, the government couldn't even clear the first bar. They couldn't show you that Mr. Ocean's property wasn't his. And at that point, it becomes irrelevant whether or not the property was valued at over $1,000, or whether or not it was somebody else's, or if Mr. Ocean even moved the money. And to that point, members of the jury, I haven't seen any paper trails here today. I mean, where's the cash that was stolen? I'd like to see evidence of wire transfers, offshore bank accounts, I mean, something. But the government didn't do that today. Well, they didn't do it because they couldn't. They couldn't show you evidence that Danny Ocean stole money because he didn't have that stolen money in the first place. Simple as that. All right, so the government couldn't hack the grand theft charge, but that's all right. I've got time. Let's take a look at their conspiracy charge too. There were a total of 11 hotel rooms to search, 11 rooms worth of evidence to collect. You see, they had to prove that the defendant agreed with one or more individuals to commit grand theft, and that one or more of the conspirators took at least one overt act to further that crime. They couldn't do that today. And that's because they have zero forensics. to suggest that Mr. Ocean visited any of the thieves' hotel rooms or that any of them visited his. The agents on this case didn't find phone records, texts, or emails to show that Mr. Ocean had ever even contacted any of the thieves, much less planned out this whole thing. I can't point to a single conversation. The special agent can't relay a single sentence to you spoken between the group of thieves and Mr. Ocean. And for over a year before the heist, Mr. Ocean was in prison under constant surveillance where every move he made, every letter he sent, every call he placed was watched. He went from one high security place to another. I mean, Vegas hotels are infamous for their high surveillance. And yet in all that time, the FBI couldn't scrounge up one video clip of Mr. Ocean entering the thieves' hotel room or even talking to them, much less talking to them about this crime. And the last time I checked, members of the jury, conspiracy requires communication. Unless the prosecution, of course, is alleging that the defendant had powers of telepathy, there's just no way to prove that he was communicating or conspiring with the thieves. So once again, the government falls short at the very first element. Members of the jury, we know what the government had to work with. Danny Ocean was there for 2 weeks. They had a total of 11 hotel rooms to search, over 20,000 minutes of Mr. Ocean's time to try to find a single moment unaccounted for. And yet they came to trial today with zero DNA evidence, zero digital evidence, zero forensic evidence linking my client to this crime. As far as I can see, members of the jury, all they've got is one biased accusation. That, members of the jury, isn't just reasonable doubt. The reasons to doubt are overwhelming, and this isn't an acquittal by a technicality. You see, members of the jury, Mr. Ocean walked through those doors to this trial an innocent man. Not much has changed since. See that he walks out those doors the same. Find him not guilty. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Peterson. Government, do you have a rebuttal to give now?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, whenever you're ready.
He met with the criminals. He lived with the criminals. He lied to your face. The defense keeps saying there's no proof. Members of the jury, they're just not listening. Mr. Ocean himself told you he would steal for his wife. A co-conspirator told us that he was the mastermind. We learned he had cash on hand after the heist. He met with them. He lived with them. He lied to your face. Find him guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Now, myself and the scoring judges are going to fill out our ballots.
All right, it looks like we have all the ballots. So Catherine, Christian, Ireland, can you guys just come back onto the screen and give our competitors just one comment each, and then we will announce who's moving on to our final in 3 hours.
All right, I've talked a lot, so why don't we start with our panel of scorers?
Well, I can start. I thought that you both were very amazing and you're great at being very conversational, which I think is important. You didn't let us as jurors or judges get bored in any sense. It was entertaining, but also still very technically right. And I thought it was spot on. And I was really impressed by both of you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Ireland, like especially on the short prep. I thought you guys did a really, really good job. One thing I liked from each of you, Mary, your opening, I thought that you did a good job of kind of fronting the fact that your client had been to prison. You didn't shy away from that, and you actually used it. You turned it into a good fact by bringing up how he couldn't have planned this when he was in prison, and that kind of rebutted what Michael was saying in his opening. So I thought that was a really clever point that you made. Michael, I loved your cross, man. Like, your control was great. You were super conversational, dynamic. You had, comebacks for everything that the witness was saying. And I thought you handled it really good. So yeah, great job to both of you.
Yeah, I completely agree with Ireland and Christian. Just a great round. Congratulations to making it to the semifinals. That's a huge accomplishment. Mary Pat, for me, the highlight of your case was the direct of Danny Ocean. I just thought that was really well done. Like, it was just incredibly well written. You had like great chemistry and like attentiveness to the witness. So fantastic job on that. And Michael, completely with Christian, that cross of the defendant was fantastic. I honestly thought that the impeachment landed really, really well. So great job on that. And congratulations again to you both.
All right, thank you guys. So I'm going to announce the winner in just a second, but before I do, let me just say that this was a really good round. I've seen a lot of trial by combat rounds over the last 5 years, and not only was this a great round for our plan, but I think this was one of the better trial by combat rounds I've ever seen, period. So congratulations to both of you. I hope the people that are watching this, hopefully years from now, are learning a thing or two from the two of you. And this was certainly a really close round with respect to the results. But moving on to our final round in just a couple of hours is Michael Chandler. Congratulations, Michael. Michael, you're going to be representing the defense because in the other room, Mr. Cundy was victorious. So that means we have an auto flip at 5 Eastern. And it'll be Jackson Cundy of Wisconsin against Michael Chandler from Brown representing the defendant. Hope everyone will tune in at 5 to watch that final round. And good luck, Mike.
Thank you so much, judges. Appreciate it. Ms. Peterson, great to hit you. It's always great to see California competitors. It was awesome.
Thank you so much, everybody. And congrats, Michael. Kick butt at the next round.
I will.
Congratulations.